Ladies and gentlemen, ears of corn all over the world and indeed the internet. Welcome to the Corn Chronicles. The search continues. I am joined by a WBYC staple and original and dear friend of mine, Mr. Wyatt Foreman. Wyatt, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on, sir. This is wonderful experience. I'm very excited.
Man, Wyatt, means a lot to have you here. It means even more to have you say that. Such a pleasure to be joined by you this evening. Wyatt is one of the few, and it is yet to premiere, but we've already had Dennis on the program. By the time you see Wyatt's show, we will have seen Dennis Madden on the program, who awesome. Is, of course, the very roots of the name, the Corn Chronicles, coming from Where Did You Get That Corn?
My favorite radio shows of all time.
Yeah, it's up there, man. Certainly memorable.
Oh yeah.
But I bring that up because Wyatt is also very familiar with the show because he was deeply involved in WBYC when we were both in school together at your college. Wyatt, can we start kind of this talk with just kind of how did you get involved with WBYC? And I know that you kind of moved up the ranks there to oversee kind of the rotation songs. And I know obviously you had your own show. And I'd kind of just, at least to start, why don't you kind of break us into like what drew you to radio and WBYC and led to you kind of taking the lead you did there? Because you were very involved and very much, very important to my growth there, but very important to the station as a whole.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that. I kind of fell into it. It was never something that I knew from the onset. Like, so, you know, getting the tour, like, as we all did the summer prior, or, you know, whenever that was in the year prior to us all stepping foot on that wonderful campus. You know, we saw the radio station and I was like, oh, that's cool. But like, I was just like, music. I want to play drums. I want to be a part of every ensemble I can. And that was just kind of my focus. I was so tired of like, you know, the gen ed stuff and school. We had been doing it for 14 years at that point. I was like, let me play music. That's all I want to do. So that's kind of what I did for, you know, the first semester. I had my blinders on and I was working at Toys R Us at the time. And actually there was a coworker of mine who was a bit older. He was going back to school. And he was like this, I looked at him as this like really cool guy. He shaved his head. He had a lot of tattoos. He was really into punk rock and everything. So like we gelled pretty early on, and I learned a lot of things about music from him. And he, like, you know, we found out he was going to school there. He obviously wasn't on campus all the time. He was just, you know, showing up for his classes in Bolton. But he had a radio show, and he did a punk show, like, I think Saturday nights 10 to 1. Which ended up being the slot that I took. And he had been doing it for a couple years. And he was like, man, you know, I really enjoy talking with you about music. And you seem like you have a good musical sense and head on your shoulders. So, you know, I'm not going to be able to do it next semester. I'd like you to take over my show. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I was like, are you sure? Because I hadn't known him all that long. And he was just like, yeah, man. He's like, I'd like you to come in, like, do a couple shows with me and see how it goes, and I'd like to give it to you. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. You know, there was some crossover between like the music students and the radio kids, but there wasn't a lot. I mean, as you know, we have a lot of the same friends, but you know, we didn't see a lot of the Wolf Hall kids migrating over there unless they had to do a project for audio to do the mini disc stuff. Right. So yeah, I mean, I went in and I watched him do it, and it was just like, wow, this is awesome. This is so cool. I would really love to do this. Obviously, you know, listening to radio, you come to find out that it's like pre-programmed. Most satellite radio, it's all like, you know, they have that stuff. And I interned at a radio station. That stuff set up like months in advance. Yeah, like they set up when they're gonna play, especially the classic stations. Like there's not a lot of soul in that. So going in and seeing like, wow, you can just play whatever the heck you want, and like, that's it. Like, you just come in, play the music that you love, talk about it. That's it. If people listening to it like it, that's great. They'll give you requests. If not, whatever, you're still having fun and you get to have a radio show. You know, there's no one there to slap you on the wrist unless you're like swearing or, you know, playing things that you shouldn't be.
Right.
Yeah. So, anyways, long story long, I fell into that show. I came in and I met with a couple of the people that were in charge of the station, obviously with Tom and Drew, and yeah, they gave me the green light. So I think that was fall 2007 is when we started, and that's when I met him and like did a couple shows with him. And then I think spring semester, as soon as we came back, I think from winter break or Christmas break, whatever, we had so many breaks around the winter season.
Right.
I think I started my show, and yeah, from there I had a couple of different shows. I took that 10-to-1 show on Saturdays, which I loved because there was no one there. You could just like, kick back, put some tunes on, and just kind of like enjoy yourself. And then I think I had a lunchtime show at some point, and I got to befriend a lot of the people and got really close. And after another semester, I was part of their. I forget exactly how it happened. It seemed, it was over 10 years ago now, so it doesn't seem like that long, but it is. And I somehow, I kind of lived there. If I wasn't in Wolf Hall, sleeping in the basement there, I was over in the radio, the radio station, just hanging out, talking to people. That was kind of the place to like just chill. Obviously, it helped that the lunch hall was downstairs, so we could get some lunch and then come back up, and everyone just kind of huddled there. If you didn't have anything to do, you were there just chatting about music, life, whatever. It was, a bunch of misfits just doing whatever they want. And you had the spectrum, man. You had people listening to EDM. We had a sports talk show that won awards. We had that whole crew in there. We had the metal kids, obviously Big Phil. I became really close with those guys, and so I fell into that and kind of lived there and made it my second home, and eventually wound up being the music director. So I was in charge of emailing all the reps and talking to them on the phone, the label executives, and talking to them about what we were playing and keeping track of rotation and how things were playing, and they wanted to push certain bands, so I'd try to get people to play those a little more. And
I remember those talks.
Yeah, you remember the grind. It would be like, hey, I think you'd like this, please play it. And I think you were one of the best. You were one of the best at doing that. You'd always stick them in, and you really helped me out there, because a lot of times they'd call you back and be like, hey, how's this doing? And I'd be like, I tried, and they'd be like, well, can you please try harder? And some people, I'd come in and look at their sheets, and it'd be like they just played 3 straight hours of whatever the hell they wanted to, and there was no rotation songs in there. But you were always good. You were always a good boy. You helped me out there.
Hey,
and I tried to put in stuff that like wasn't junk. I tried to put in stuff that I thought people would actually like based on the shows that they had. And your show Fanfare for the Common Man was a great one. Kenny O, the Dr. O radio show was always another good one. He was always really good about that too. So I appreciated the help there, because it was a hard job, but it was a fun job. I loved it, and it turned out to be what I kind of wanted to, what I tried to dabble in and pursue after college. It didn't work out, but I feel like it gave me a lot of good fundamentals to take into the real world, and it was it was a window into a world that it doesn't really exist a whole lot anymore. The terrestrial radio and all that. College radio is kind of the last
stand for that.
Whatever, play whatever you want. And a lot of those companies that actually, the people that I would talk to, a lot of that shut down. Only not long after we graduated. You remember CMJ, which was the College Music Journal. They don't exist anymore. I think in 2015 that shut down, and they had that festival every year we went to, and that was a blast. That was just really eye-opening, and I learned a lot of stuff and met a lot of cool people, some of who I still talk to today. So music is that bond. You never lose that. You make a lot of strong relationships, and it was probably one of the best times of my life.
Well, that's great, dude. Well, 2 things I take from that. One, it was never hard to help you out by playing rotation, because like you said, you always threw some great stuff in. There are bands that, there are a couple albums that I'd like to believe I've heard sooner because of them being on rotation, but there are entire bands. Actually, just before this call, I was listening to Buxter Hooten.
Okay.
And that was a rotation, and I have like 2 of their albums all of a sudden. Plants and Animals comes to mind, man. Wasn't that a lightning it up there? They kind of fell off, but like that was a band.
Yeah, no, and there's a lot of those. I'll go back and look through my like iTunes library and see like, man, this was like a great artist, and they had that, whether it was commercially successful or not, they would have like a smash album, and then they would just kind of like they were gone.
Dissipate.
And there was just so many like awesome bands in that machine, that like college music kind of machine that it was. Even though it was fun, it wasn't like the crazy popular music industry where people just get eaten alive. But there were so many bands. I mean, we were getting tons. I mean, you probably saw my stack of mail that I would have on a weekly basis. It was just like, here, listen to these 500 CDs, and it was like, oh my God, there's no way I can do this all by myself.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure as hell tried, man. We tried.
My 2. There are 3 rotation memories that I have, and I'll keep them very brief because this is not about me. I do remember there was one String Cheese Incident live album, and I'm a big fan of the String Cheese Incident.
Yes, I know the one you're talking about, I think.
Right. So I'm a big fan of them then. Bigger fan of them now because I've seen them at a couple mountain jams.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
However, there was one, and actually I never knew the rules on this, so you're the guy to ask. Okay. They had one of the tracks on that rotation song was like crowd hullabaloo or something like that. Okay. It was crowd something. And in my mind, I was just like, oh, this sounds cool. Like, let's play this.
Yeah.
It turns out that it's like 6 minutes of them going like, let's hear this side of the crowd get loud. Let's hear this side of the crowd get loud. And I'm mortified because I throw this on, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like, to be honest with you, to show how seriously I took it, like, I feel like if I cut it off in the middle and say sorry about that, like, I'm going to get in trouble. So I'm just like, I'm literally counting the seconds of this, like, 6 minute, like, crowd exchange of just, like, the crowd going wild. And I'm just like, damn it,
That's case in point as to, like, that was like case in point as to we couldn't listen to everything we put on there, but we put it all on. But was that not the album that had like the spider on it? And I think they did like a 10-minute cover of Hot in Here, like by Nelly.
Now that was their Halloween show. This was a different one. The different one was actually like, I think, a 3 CD set. And if they had a whole track dedicated to the crowd making noise, you know why? There was 3 CDs.
They had to fill time. They were locked in for 3 discs, and they were like, "We gotta keep this thing going." Yeah, that's awesome. I remember my first slip up too, and it was like 12:50 a.m. on a Saturday night, 10 minutes before we closed down. 0 listeners. It's just me in there, and I think like I let like a swear word fly, and I was just like, beat red, and I was like, oh God, they're gonna find me. Because I don't know if you ever got the talk, but Tom would always be like, if the FCC is listening and that hits, like that's thousands of dollars fines that can be levied toward us.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh God, I just like sunk this whole radio station with like one F word at 12:55 a.m. on a Saturday when no one was listening. Right. So it's like, it was okay. And as you go on, that happens every now and then. And there's no way the FCC is going to be like, oh my God, 99.7 is teaching kids swear words.
Get him.
Yeah. So, or wait, 99. Yeah, it was 99.7, right?
Yeah, 99.7.
I keep getting mixed up because now it's not that anymore.
Right.
So it's it always screws me up.
Not only are the call numbers different, but like, I think I would have found radio anyway. I genuinely believe that. But when we were there, it was such like a almost kind of grunge vibe, just like a real like underground kind of feel to it. And now, it's so pristine and nice. And part of you, like the 31-year-old York alum wearing this gosh darn like blazer is like, aha, good for them. It's splendid.
Yeah.
But then like knowing 18, 19-year-old Tom, I'd be like, blah.
Right? Exactly. Well, and that's because, you know, we lived there for like 4 years at most, and it was home. And that place had been, you know, was built in probably 80, because I don't think the radio station moved there until like 80, 81. It was down in like Campbell basement from like 75 for like 5 years, I think. But yeah, that place had been outfitted, and then it was not changed until like maybe 2015 or whatever, when they got all that money and got that new equipment. I mean, it's beautiful. It looks, I'm sure it's better for them. It probably draws a lot more kids in. It looks like looks like a legit thing. And not to say it wasn't a legit thing then, but you know,
it didn't have the look.
Yeah, because you could see like, you know, the eras of people that had been there before. And especially when we did like alumni weekend, and the people from the 70s, 80s, and 90s would come back, they're like, wow, it's still, you know, here's my sticker on the wall, here's my picture on the wall, like it's still there.
Kid
like,
and play.
Yeah, the kid and play was on the wall. Yeah, exactly. And it was just like, you know, you were carrying the torch onward. So it was like you were leaving your mark. I don't know if you remember, my desk was covered in stickers, and that like kept, you know, as I got more stickers, you'd put more stickers on, and that was like you're leaving your mark of the stickers that you put on the desk. And so in a way, it's like that was a time capsule, and it'll never be that way again. Maybe it should have been a little cleaner, I don't know, but that was home. So
yeah, it absolutely was. And I find it interesting. I mean, and there are always more rotation stories. I told a story with Dennis on the show. We found a lot of gems in rotation, okay? Buxter, who I just brought up. Funny. But rest assured. But every now and again, you just wouldn't be, sometimes your own playlist would just be like so pristine, you'd be like, all right, man, let's crank out the rotation. Let's just get them over with.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And
I did it too.
I'm looking through these kind of playlists, and I'm just like, all of these Bayside songs are 2 minutes and 30 seconds long. Like, and I say to Dennis, I warn him, I'm just like, yo, Dennis, man, I'm just going to crank out these Bayside tunes. And Dennis goes, because he doesn't realize how serious I am. He's like, yeah, man, cool, you know, because like that's Dennis and me, you know?
Yeah,
we're like,
rolling with it. Yep.
We're all just flowing with the flow, you know? But I play like 9 tracks in a row of Bayside, and I swear to God, Wyatt, and you know Dennis as well as I do, by like track 8, Dennis is just like, you know?
That's awesome. And it's also really funny that you say that, because I love that band too, and I probably promoted the hell out of it. And I've seen them like, I don't know, probably close to 15 times live. But it's just funny that, because I would do that too. Sometimes you were just like, you were in a theme, and you were just like, man, this is like gold, you know? You'd set up your playlist like a week in advance and be like, God, this is gonna be the best thing ever, and it's gonna like turn heads, and then you have no one listening, but like still you're just like, you know, it was a mood, and you could play whatever you wanted. So it was awesome. So I too would just be like, all right, I like these 3 albums on rotation, let me just pump through a couple songs, and here's my actual like playlist.
Yeah, exactly. And now we begin.
I know the pains that caused sometimes, but that's funny that you bring that up, and I can only imagine Dennis doing that.
Yeah, exactly, man. I definitely owed him an apology after that one. I owed him an apology after most shows, to be honest, but it wasn't because I bored him.
No. Hey, I think that was a great show, and I think that your personalities were like perfect for that setting. So it made the show. And your show, so Fanfare came first, right? Fanfare was first. Your solo show?
Fanfare was second.
Second? You won an award for that though, right?
I did.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. I'll slip you $5 for mentioning that. Yeah.
Well, so where did you get that corn? You like, you know, you laid your foundation for your award-winning show there. So you were obviously doing good work.
Yeah. No, I mean, both shows were obviously things that we took very seriously. But Corn was all about this Dennis and I having fun.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that came across, which is awesome. But I definitely saw, for me, here's what I found, and it's not the reason I took on a solo show, but I realized that in my playlist I wanted more and more kind of jazz and things that were kind of pushed ear kind of stuff, and sometimes that would resonate with Dennis, and other times like Dennis was always supportive of it. You know, like it was never a drag, but it was, you could tell that it just wasn't a unified stance. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I just kind of asked Phil, like, hey, like I want something that's a little more, I'm going to use this word, but I don't mean it. I want something that's a little more academic, something that where I could talk sports, where I could really analyze some music, kind of use
take a hobby and make it something I guess a learning experience, or you're learning yourself and possibly bestowing information on other people, whereas the other one was more of a, here's some awesome music, we're just having a good time. It's cool too, but they're just both separate things.
Right. Something a bit more of a craft show. And Phil found the time for me, which is awesome. And that's basically what Fanfare was. And I had Dennis on there a couple times. And rest assured that if Dennis wanted to commit to that kind of show too, he could have done just as well. But yeah, it was a cool little unique experience. And I think just the blend of jazz, rock, and in-depth basketball talk kind of made it unique enough for IBS to take notice. And I won an award, and it was all good stuff, man. It really was. I will say,
good time.
To circle it back and put a bow on the WBYC stuff real quick. It's kind of interesting that the gentleman you were working with at Toys R Us kind of looked after you and said, hey, I think you should take this show over. Because kind of Big Phil looked after Dennis and myself in kind of the same way. It was actually Big Phil who said that, like I'm paraphrasing, but he said to Dennis and myself, like, you guys have like a weird little dynamic. Like, we have kind of this show open, like, would you want to do that? And what's crazy to me, it's so wild that like Dennis and I took a week to like think about it. Like in hindsight, you're just like, F yeah, you want that. You know what I'm saying? But it's like at the time, you're just like, I don't know,
You are the consummate businessman weighing all your options.
Exactly, man. Yeah, but I think I just kind of find that compelling that, we both had kind of similar entries into WBYC with people kind of trying to clear the way for you and seeing something in you. I think, quite frankly, I think that makes all three of us special, Dennis included, man. I think.
It's very cool to be, obviously, it was like a family, and you didn't just, it was odd. I don't know if it was the same for you, but you weren't supposed to start on like FM. You were supposed to come in and learn on AM, because that was like, it was like, there was more handcuffs and there was less responsibility there on yourself. Like it was a lot easier, but like he had faith enough in me and proved, I guess I proved myself in a way that I got thrown right on. Now it wasn't like a high, listening, high trafficked hour that I was on. Nobody was sitting around at college at 10 p.m. on a Saturday night trying to listen to Wyatt's radio show. But it was cool that I kind of flew under the radar, and that got me in there. And it was, again, never something that I sought out, but I backed into it, kind of fell into it, and it was life-changing experience. And I met a lot of cool people and learned a lot of cool stuff. And I think a lot of the relationships that I made there in the radio station and with like people, the business people that I talked to in the real world, really kind of helped tool my focus towards the end of college to what I wanted to do, and gave me the skills that I now carry into, booking artists for the Appel Center now. So it's kind of, it in a way it helped. And again, the Appel Center was never a job that I like was like, oh man, I got to go have that. It was again something like I tried. If you don't mind me taking
No,
another turn
please,
here and just
please.
further the story. After school, I tried to work, on the other side of what I did, working for those companies in radio that would then call the different colleges and see what rotation was playing and where their songs playing, and had the rosters and got to go to shows and stuff like that. And it didn't work out. I got close, and obviously there was a lot of kids. Radio was huge. College radio was huge, at least in the college realm. There was a lot of kids going out, and there was really only so many companies. So it was pretty tough to get into. And it was either New York, Boston, or LA. And I, being a Yankees fan, I couldn't go to Boston. Obviously, that was out. And I wasn't going to travel halfway across or to the other side of the United States. So New York seemed like a lot better home for me. And I tried and didn't make it. So wound up back here, and sure enough, within 2 months, or a month of coming back home, there was I was in the paper, which seems weird for like 2011, that Wyatt was cracking open the York Daily Record to find some jobs, and the Pell Center had a posting in there, and I took it and worked there. Only twice a month. I'd work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just selling tickets for the movies, just walking up, dropping $5, and I'd hand a person the ticket. And 8 years later, I'm the program manager. So, I like to think that the things that I did in college helped shape that a little bit, even though a lot of it, that fate probably interworked its way into there a little bit, and chance. But, is what it is, and it got me here.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about where you are now. More, admittedly, I talk Wyatt through every time. It may seem like a very informal show, but every time I have a friend, and indeed, anyone who comes out here is more than a friend. Anyone that comes on here is someone that I've learned from and that has shaped me. And Wyatt's no exception to that. So, admittedly, what I had in writing the Strand and Appel Center here on my list, what I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on. I've been fortunate in my life to have some jobs that I know have had a ripple effect on people. I spent 4 years working in international education, and very literally seeing kids kind of grow and educate themselves and earn diplomas and things like that. And that's all very rewarding, but that all very much kind of felt like, okay, now that you've gotten your education in Canada, enjoy your life in Thailand. It's significant. And you don't do the line of work I was in for 4 years unless you care.
Yeah.
But as much as it's significant, it's not personalized. Where I'm going, and I hope that it's a trail that you feel strongly about, or at least have some thoughts on.
Yeah.
I love the fact that what you do is A, so important to the arts, and B, so deeply entrenched kind of in the community. Can you kind of tell me about, you already kind of touched on kind of getting your starts there.
Yeah.
But can you tell me kind of about your feelings on kind of having such an impact on the community around you, especially in the fields of the arts, because you are so important to kind of bringing these artists in to not only, in some cases, you want to bring artists in that I'm assuming, bring artists in that your community will resonate with already. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, and I may be, I think there are also artists that you want to take upon yourself to introduce your community to. Can you kind of take me through kind of your thoughts on that, and having kind of that role in York, a place that I can only imagine has grown more and more significant to you as time has gone on?
Yeah, for sure, definitely. Yeah, I mean, the arts are super significant, and especially in York's not a huge city, so there's a lot of there's Lancaster and Harrisburg, and there's plenty of other performing arts places there, but this place has been around for over 100 years, so it's very much entrenched in New York, and it's one of its pillars and backbones. And so I'm very appreciative that I get to walk through that door every day. And I always make a point, and I tell people this, like, you know, you can, whatever job you do, I hope that it's something that you love. And that's never, it's never lost on me that every day I walk through 100-year-old theater to get to my desk. And I make sure I don't have to go that way, but I make sure that I do it. And I'm reminded of, like, wow, this is cool. Not everybody gets to do this. I love this. And I can see, you know, the joy and delight in people's eyes when they get to come to shows. And that's very fulfilling to me. But also just like the surroundings. I walk through history every day, and I know that's not something that everyone gets to do. So I make sure I take it upon myself to enjoy that. And, you know, because anything, especially in light of what's happening right now, anything could be gone very quickly. So I like to take it upon myself to walk through there every day and remember, like, you know, I'm very fortunate to be in the line of work that I am, and at the theater that I am, you know, being so close to my home. So yeah, so that's the beginning part of that. But yeah, so obviously we have tons of different shows there. You know, we have 2 theaters. We have one that's a smaller theater, movie house, smaller bands, a lot of indie bands, districts, like you were talking about earlier. You know, a lot of the bands that you and I love and go to see all the time play the smaller rooms because you know, they're not on that upper echelon tier yet where they're with Dave Matthews Band and all that. But then we have a bigger theater, and we have, you know, everything: comedians, ballroom dancing, Broadway shows, ukulele players that from Japan that come in and play that you got to see. So, you know, we do a little bit of everything, and we know going into a lot of that, like, yes, we want to make money, not just for ourselves. We want to make money for the theater because, you know, we're not money hungry, grabbing on and then trying to, you know, stuff our pockets. All the money we make goes right back into bringing, you know, world-class entertainment back to the city, to get people to see artists down the street. You know, someone lives in New York City, you know, a couple blocks away. It might not be the Taj Mahal of houses that they live in. It might just be 4 walls and a roof, but they can walk down the street and maybe see John Legend. You know, we've had John Legend there, and you know, Ben Folds and tons of people. Chris Cornell is one that always sticks with me. He was very close to my heart, and that was a crazy experience that I got to see that show at the place that I call my job. So, you know, those shows are amazing, but we also, like you said, we try to bring stuff that people maybe don't know, or maybe that's an underserved artist or underserved genre. You know, every show we go into, we're not expecting it to be a sellout. You know, speaking of the Jake Shimabukuro show, like, you were there, we were not packed to the gills by any means, but like, that was an artist that deserved to be on stage and probably doesn't get a lot of play, like, you know, like your John Legends and your Chris Cornells and Jason Mrazes, who have all graced that same stage. But you know, it was an artist, it was a genre that was probably underserved in this area, and it was very cool to see the people come out. And sometimes those shows are where we get the best reaction afterward. You know, however it touches their lives, or the music has interwoven itself into their life, that artist touched them, and they were able to see it down the street from where they live, and they probably might not have had that chance otherwise. You know, he's not playing the Giant Center, he's not playing, probably not even the Chameleon Club. Like, it was just like those people that search for the performing arts centers and play there and tour those beautiful historic venues across America. You know, they really appreciate that, because they know we don't have to do that. You know, we could just keep booking Ron White all year, and, you know, that's going to sell, you know, every time, because people love him and they're always going to come back. But it's very cool to see those types of shows. Just, you know, just for me too, I always make it a point, even if it's something that I'm not supremely like attracted to, like, when I'm done working, I will go and take at least 5 minutes and just to see what it's all about. You know, maybe it will catch my eye or my ear or something, or I'll take something away from it that'll shoot me into another direction of music and a genre that I might not be aware of, or certain artists, and then I just keep digging and I keep learning, and I learn about the artists that inspired them, and go on, and you know, you've done it too. You end up in the YouTube hole, and you're here, there, and everywhere, and you find something, and that's like in your brain forever. So just on a personal level, that's cool for me. But yeah, to see artists like that play in a theater and get their due, even if it's not sold out, doesn't matter. It's cool. It's still, those can also be some of the loudest shows. We can have 300-400 people in there, and it could be the most loudest, like, awesome crowd, because all 300 people love that artist.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, cool, John Legend's playing, like, that's the event of the year, I have to go there. I might know half of a John Legend song, but I gotta go to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's like, they might not be the most raucous because they don't know the music, but it's just like, gotta be seen, gotta be heard.
Right.
But whereas, like, I think, you know, in a lot of those shows, Jake included, like, every person that was in that building loves his music and knows it so deep, and they're very appreciative. And, you know, and we try to make it accessible so that they can see it. A lot of those shows are grant funded. You know, the Arts has a lot of presents a lot of grants that we can do for funding for smaller shows like that really helps. And, you know, we also do a lot of education stuff, which is really cool. And some shows like that, we bring the local, the city schools will come out and see, and just see. That's another thing too. When we do kids programming, you like to see those kids that, you know, might not have a chance to see a lot of cool stuff like that, you know, what circumstances being what they may, whatever, in their home life. But, you know, seeing them get to come and be transported into like a, you know, a Broadway world or whatever it is, it's super cool. And that always resonates with me very, very much so. And it drives me forward, because we all have our bad days, you know. You can love something so much that it kills you. And sometimes when you're grinding as much as we have to, you can be a little downtrodden, but those memories are always there to pick you back up.
Well, cool, man.
I hope that answered your question.
That's well said, man. That says all I could ever dream and more, man. Quick side note: a couple of years later, Jake played a community theater here on Long Island.
Nice.
I went to see that show as well. I think that was my third or fourth time seeing him, and I got to meet him after the show.
Very cool.
And I brought up that I saw him in York. He's just like, "Oh yes, I love York." And I'm just like, "Yeah, Jake, I love York too."
Yes, we're on the map.
It was cool.
Yeah. And that's another thing too. When you say that you got to meet him, you know, a lot of times they'll tell you, and this is true with some people, they'll tell you like, oh, you know, don't meet musical artists that you love. They might not be, you know, exactly who you want them to be. And that is true, but a lot of the times, in working now, even now more in my role that I'm working directly with a lot of the artists, they're just, you know, they're people like you and me. They have bad days, but a lot of them are very genuine and very appreciative to the work. They know it takes a village. On their end, it takes a village to get them on stage, and on our end, it takes a village to put them up there. And you know, so they're always very appreciative. And something that always sticks with me, because I've heard it from a lot of bands and ones that I love, Lone Bellow included, when they walk in and see your theater for the first time, they're like, wow, you know, you're waiting for sound check because I have their money, so I got to go pay them. Yeah. And they walk in and they'd be like, wow, this is an awesome theater. Like, this is very cool. And they remember that, and then they want to come back. And, you know, that helps too. You know, the production guys that are working with them that are very professional, and, you know, we try to be very professional and show our gratitude, and that resonates with them. And then they want to come back. You know, they come back 3, 4, 5 times. There's a lot of artists that every 2 years will come back because they love the space and they know they're going to get a quality show. And you know, we try to keep that up. So it's very cool to hear that from them as well.
So cool to hear that perspective. But yeah, now that we've talked about professional stuff,
yeah, right.
we're gonna go back in the time machine. We're gonna loosen up a little bit. All right.
All right.
Because I have to bring up to you my very first memory with you, and it might not be something you remember all that well, because we've kind of touched on it a little bit. There has never been a time in my life where Wyatt hasn't been somebody I want in the same room as me, okay? Rest assured. But with that said, I think Wyatt can attest. I just say this as a matter of fact. Until I got involved with radio, Wyatt was very much just like, oh, there's Wyatt, good friend of my good friend Steve, good friend of my good friend Bryce. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was not a ton until I got involved in WBYC, which I think was like mid sophomore year. It was just kind of like, that's that cool guy Wyatt, and I will wave to good guy Wyatt, and Wyatt will wave back, and then we will carry on with our lives. You know, like there was that relationship for a good while. Okay, now, and it's cool to say that. True. It's cool to say that because of what, you know, now we're very genuine friends, but like that's just kind of the truth of what it was for me. That said, I bring that up because during that, like, at least year-long span where Wyatt was just like that guy Wyatt, there was a drum circle organized on campus. And
I do remember this. Yep.
Okay, now here's my question. I'm going somewhere.
Well, I remember the drum circle. I might not remember your exact memory from said drum circle. We'll see.
So my casual question, it has nothing to do with the story, but when I was trying to prep for the interview, I couldn't think of it. Was that drum circle organized by the Groove Ensemble or was it organized by WBYC? Do you happen to remember that? It was driving me nuts.
I think it was organized by MISA, wasn't it? The Music and Entertainment Industry Student Association.
No wonder. Gosh,
was it like myself and like Travis Lovis and Brandon and all those guys? Maybe were they a part of it? Yeah, I think we were like the new class of people they were trying to usher in to take over MISA, which was overseen by Carol Nisley, and like a lot of the older students were graduating and leaving, so we were trying to like take over, and Theo was a part of that. We were all a part of the board eventually. I think myself, Theo, Bill Hornberger, if you remember him, shredder guitar player, amazing guitarist. Yeah, so I believe that was a MISA event because we would play every year and they hated it. We would play every year at Relay for Life, but we would always be at like the 20th hour at like 6 a.m. We'd come in and try to like rally the troops, and we would just be banging like, you know, insanely, and they, you know, a lot of them didn't know us. You know, a lot of the people that ran that, you know, organization, I forget which organization ended up doing that, but they didn't really know us. So we were just kind of like these weird, like disheveled children, like banging on pots and pans and bongo drums and stuff. So that was always a good time. They really loved us there. But yeah, we did do a couple of those. And I think it was like MISA and possibly Professor Protopopis played a part in that, world music guy, because I believe he played with us sometimes. So I want to say that it was MISA, I think.
Right on. So
I could be completely
on main campus, and we're in this drum circle, okay? And I think what has been made apparent is I'm not part of the organizing of this drum circle, but I was asked to be a part of it, and I think it was pretty all-inclusive, which is part of the point of my story. Everyone in this drum circle is working together to create a sound, and it's pretty darn cool, rest assured. Everyone in that drum circle is some measure of a musician. I would, a modest one, rest assured, but I would call myself a musician, but I would not call myself a percussionist in any aspect of the word. And I think people like me made up the majority of the group, and people like Wyatt, who are very talented drummers, who would be cognizant of different time signatures and things like that. You know, not that I'm a fool, but in terms of like, if you asked me to count something in 5/4, I'd be able to do it. If you said, Tom, play something in 5/4, I'd be like, you know, as I fall out of my chair, you know. But
I'm sure you put on the ukulele though.
No doubt. Maybe by now.
I could not.
But here's the thing. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I can't tell you how much I treasure this memory. I happened to be next to Wyatt in this drum circle, okay? And the drum circle sounds fine, but like you reach a point where everything's in 4/4 and everyone's just like ba-ba, you know, doing their thing. And after every jam, and each jam is like at least 5 minutes, you know, it's like it's a crowd hullabaloo of but but every song takes a good while, you know, they're at least 5-6 minutes. And if we reach a point where, like, I don't want to speak for him, but I feel like I read the situation pretty well. Like, the percussionist in Wyatt is kind of like, okay, let's switch it up. And you just hear Wyatt, who's right next to me, and he's just like, hey, guy who's running it. I don't remember who's running it. He's like, why don't we try something like, you keep saying schism for like the Super song. Yeah. and you would just like kind of start it out and just be like, all right, let's do this. And there were, I think, 2 times where like Wyatt's suggestion was ignored. And then there were two or three times where we would try playing something in like a unique time signature. And then, but because not everyone in the circle, which is about like 20 people, not everyone in the circle is the kind of drummer that Wyatt is, it would eventually fall into just the same 4/4, like, and I'm telling you, dude, I hate to say it, but I'm just being honest with you. The measure of humor that I got from seeing your face fall every time, like the 5/4 and the schism got like dropped and just like it devolved into the norm. It's like every time you would just see Wyatt like, you know, like sad and just like still playing. Dude.
I can totally envision that, and I don't know why I would have been so stuck on that. Like, what an odd metered thing to try to suggest, and especially not something that should be played for like a community like drum circle. But I just must have been feeling that vibe and really kind of pushed for it. I don't know why.
I was in stitches. I stayed for the entirety of the drum circle, like literally just for that. I like, because playing drums is fun, but just like literally over my left shoulder, I'm just like, boy,
Wyatt's really die inside.
Wyatt's really adamant on this.
I was like, I'm gonna lead you guys to a better tomorrow by playing this 5/4 time signature. Let's go. And everyone, and I'm sure as you said it, how I was ignored, everyone was probably like, God, no, Wyatt, come on. And I was like, but please. Oh man, that sounds like 18-year-old Wyatt for sure. That's funny that that stuck with you. That's hilarious. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it did, man. It was a lot of fun.
And from then on, our friendship was cemented.
There you go, man.
I went from being that cool guy Y to that asshole that's trying to play in the drum circle.
Not asshole. You know what it was? Like I was smitten with the fact that like things weren't going your way, but you were still like just playing along. You're just like, well, guess we'll do this.
We'll try again tomorrow. Try again in 6 minutes.
Like if anything, it was very endearing. You know, it showed a lot of heart. You know, it was. I loved it, man. I think about that more than you probably realize. That was really tremendous.
I was trying, man. I was trying.
Let's segue very quickly. One of the things I try to do on this show is suck the ego out of the show right away. I hate the idea that people would think that this is my show. And so I try to take myself down a peg whenever I can. One of the times, and I've only been in this situation twice, okay? I promise you, only twice. One of my visits to York, I go to Murph Study Hall, right? And
as you do.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not that I'm ancient now, but if I went to Murph Study Hall now, nobody would know who I was, nor should they.
It's a different world.
Yeah, exactly. But I was there, and I was young enough that I was seeing people from college that I knew, even though I had graduated.
Right. Yep.
So I was there to kill some time before I saw Greg, Brett, Wyatt, before I saw everybody. And I was seeing people at Murph's, and I'm not the most popular guy in the world. I don't mean that story to sound that way. But I was seeing people and it was just like, oh, Polly, have a drink with us. And I'm just like, of course I will. Why not? And then before you know it, like that number of drinks ballooned a little bit. And I just remember getting text suddenly. So I'm like, hey, Polly, we're back. We're ready to hang out. And I'm just like, oh, cool. Like, it's not like you're peeling me off the pavement, but I'm like, cool. And then they tell me like the address where they're at, and I've never heard of the street. And therein lies our story. Me.
I think I know the story you're talking about.
Yes, exactly. Me, not sober, not embarrassingly drunk, but me not sober, and me not knowing where the street is that everyone and their brother is asking me to get to. And so we're trying to like text, like, I'm like, people are like, hey, Tom, are you there? And I'm just like, yeah, I'm here. He's just like, can you get to such and such street? And I'm just like, I don't know where that is. And it's just like, okay, I don't know what to do. But I just remember it turned into a series of phone calls where we were trying to like, the way they went was just like, okay, so you're on Spring and Sperry. And I'm like, yep, okay. And then it's like, you're gonna pass Jackson. And I'm like, yep, okay. It's just like, if you reach this, you've gone too far. I'm like, yep, familiar with that street, you know? And eventually we got there, like, rest assured, you know? But I remember getting to the actual street where I had to be, and then still having no clue, like, where I was. I just knew I was on the right street. And suddenly I heard, like, a white light of an angel from my left. Just a Polly! And I'm just like, yeah. And that was Wyatt's voice. Wyatt, can you take me through kind of that story? Because I think we started with a story that's a little hazy to you just because of the time in our lives, but this story is a little hazy to me.
I think now, and again, you have visited many a times. You've been a gracious friend to visit from as far away you are. You know, you're not down the street. But there was quite a few times where you've come, and I think you've stayed here a couple times. But I believe if it's the same story I'm thinking, you came to my house, but we weren't staying here. We were going somewhere else.
Right. I think Greg had a flat tire or something.
Yes, he did. I think they were up. They did not live here yet. They being Greg and Emmy. So they had traveled up, and I think he had a flat tire, and ended up, you know, they ended up staying, I think, longer than they were going to initially. Right on. And I think some of us were here, and I believe we were going to Brett and Amber's.
Okay.
But it was easier to get you here and then take you there because you were much closer. Right. So I believe, and as you say, giving directions over phone, someone was dropping you off. So, you know, just full disclaimer, Polly was drinking but was not driving.
Right.
So, and I think you had let us know that you were close. So I was like, all right, you know, people are there. We've already been kind of waiting. We should go out and get in the car a while and get ready, and we'll just go when he gets here.
Right.
So, yeah. So then through all those directions, a car shows up, door opens up, Polly walks out, and I think you started to walk towards my house, which is at the top of the street. And we were up at, you know, there's a park that runs across the top of my street. And I think we were parked up there. And I think you walked out and walked up like you knew where you were, but just not where you were going. And I think I just yelled, Polly, get in the car.
Yes.
And I believe without fail, you just like spun around, marched right to the car and hopped in. And off we went then. But yeah, that I do remember that. That was a great memory. You just like showed up and it was like, hey, get in the car. And you were like, all right. And I think that's a true statement of your easygoing nature there. You were just like, yep, sounds right. Okay.
He knew my name. Yeah.
They know me.
You're right. Exactly.
So yeah, that was a good time. And then I think that was one of the times you stayed here when we probably had late night ukulele Counting Crows sing-alongs.
No, that was not one of those nights because I was embarrassed. I was a little impaired that night, so I don't think I did anything out of line, but I think I was just embarrassed that it took that long to get me like realistically like 5 blocks up the road because it was an ordeal
Yeah,
trying to explain to me.
5 minutes away. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a 5-minute drive that took about a half hour, and that's all on me. But what did turn into a great night of ukulele sing-along was this night. Okay, I met Wyatt after going to see Rhapsody play. Okay.
Yep. I know where you're going with this one too.
the group hanging out is, for a time, myself, Courtney Morgan, Justin Rivera, Wyatt, and his friend Dave. Dave? Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Beautiful. And excuse me. So I go see Rhapsody, which always means a lot to me. And we go to the Rhapsody party afterwards. We have a great time. I rap battle a current member of the team, of the group, which is awesome. That was something I didn't foresee happening that night. And it's with all the love and respect in the world. I love Courtney. I love Justin. It's kind of a fivesome that'll never like repeat itself again. You know what I'm saying? It really won't.
Yeah, probably not. It was place and time.
Exactly, man. It really was. But we have fun at the Rhapsody party, okay? And then Justin invites us to kind of this second place, okay? And so we take a quick walk to a second spot, and then Justin goes and does his own thing. So at that point, it's me, Wyatt, Courtney, and Wyatt's friend Dave. And
who didn't know anybody there.
Exactly. But here's the thing. At this second place, once Justin breaks off to do his own thing, none of us know anybody either. So
Yeah.
I love this story more than you probably realize. It's really one of the funniest things to have ever happened, in my opinion.
I love it too.
Do you know where I'm going with?
I remember everything that happened that night, so I'll let you take it away.
No, please. If you remember everything that happened that night, please take it away, my friend.
Okay, so yeah, we were at that second place. And I believe at that point, yourself and Courtney didn't have, like, you knew you were gonna stay somewhere. Obviously, there's very, very many friends in the area, all of which who would take U-Lovely people in.
Right.
And I don't know that it had been decided that we were all staying at my house, but being that at the time, you know, I had this house and it was all to myself, and you know, enough room for everybody. I think that we decided at that second place, wherever that was, that we would come back here.
We gotta go.
And you had like I think you had a backpack or some things along with you, and same with Courtney, and Dave had lived kind of far away, so he was gonna stay here as well. So we're like, you know, it's thinning out, and there's really, I think at that point, there was like maybe one other person awake. Like everyone was off like in other rooms, and we were just kind of sitting in the common area, I think, by ourselves.
Yeah, wasn't the best.
What's that?
Wasn't the best. Yeah, exactly.
No, yeah. So it was just us. So we were like, we don't need to be here because, you know, we're all going back to the same place together. So and at this point, yeah. So it was. I think it was alumni weekend as well. So there was a lot of people around that we knew.
Yeah.
But not many current students that we knew. So a lot of the people that were still hanging around were not really people we knew. So I think we decided to leave. But when we decided to leave, I think we also decided that we realized it was late. Everything was closed. We wanted to continue hanging out, but we didn't have any alcohol with us.
Yeah. I think more. We may have taken some. We may have. I'm not trying to make myself a statement, but I think it was more that we wanted to take back what we brought to the party.
Right. Oh yeah. We definitely had brought stuff, and we wanted to take it back, and I think we took a little more with us. But
yeah.
It was kind of hard for us to leave. Right. I remember vaguely you opening a door that you thought was the front door, and I think it was someone's room.
Yeah. Dude, yes.
So
And that is the moment. It was so beautiful. It was so beautiful.
Yeah, we're all a little bewildered in this new environment that we didn't know where we were, and had obviously been drinking, so that our surroundings were a little less familiar, and we just wanted to leave. So we tried to, and I think you picked door number 1, and it was not the prize we had, not the prize we wanted.
I'm tugging at this door.
And I think Kid was sleeping, wasn't he?
Oh,
maybe, or
not for long.
Just like
not for long.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think he was awoken then, but I think at the time that we decided to leave, he was not awake. And then very quickly became awake. And I don't know. I mean, you were in the room, so I don't remember exactly what that engagement, how that went, that interaction rather. But yeah, we were then quickly shown the real door, and then I think we skedaddled out of there.
And laughter took over at that point. As soon as that guy opened the door, just like, what do you guys want? And we're just like, oh no, it's not the door. Go that way.
This is not the door you're looking for. Yeah. That was fantastic. And then we eventually did get where we wanted to go, and then I think the late night ukulele jams commenced. But
which was cool, man.
That was quite a night.
I'm glad the night resolved itself so chill, man. Because that was
yeah. I mean, obviously that kid knew that there was a party taking place at his residence. He just might not have been as involved as some others, and obviously did not know us, and we didn't know him, and he was just trying to sleep, so he wanted us to get out of there. And
I'm trying to rip this door open, dude. Like, rest assured, man. There is no chill in these arms, Like, I'm just literally just like, oh no.
You needed to leave, and you needed to leave now. And that was the way to go. In all fairness, in your corner though, that seemed like a door that would have been a front door. And the way that house was set up, it was strange. Which, I mean, a lot of those houses were like Frankenstein together and are then like sold to college kids. So they're not like, purely, they aren't currently the way they were probably built, 100 years ago or whatever. Exactly. They've just been kind of mangled together to make a living space, but it seemed like a front door. It was attached to the living room. So.
Right. And I think we came in the back again, further back in the back for myself. Yeah.
So, yeah, no, it was not to your fault. I think any one of us, had we not just decided to leave through the back door, would have been our second choice. So that was of no fault to you, my good sir.
Well, thank you very much, Wyatt. I appreciate it. That means a lot for you to say.
I'm glad, I do talk about those two memories quite a bit, so I'm glad that they stuck with you as well.
Awesome, man. Man, also, to be honest, man, now what I have is not so much stories as much as just ties that bind us, I know that Wyatt and I each, on an evening in York, took some time to join the YBMC.
Very quickly, you picked up that theme song, by the way.
Exactly, man.
That was
Why
incredible.
Why don't you talk me through that, man? I feel like I've been talking to you too much, man.
That was so the YBMC, for the uninitiated, is the York Beard and Mustache Club, which I believe is like a real thing, but also maybe not really. So they like are a club that gets together. I don't think they have any goals. I think it's just friends of people who have beards, and they get together every now and then. I have seen that they've put on concerts like to raise money every now and then. Okay. So that's definitely, I mean, they do definitely exist, but I don't know that unless you're in the inner circle that what happens in that club.
No, I know I look like it, but I'm not into.
Same. And I've only been growing this for like 3 months, and it's nothing, just because I'll never get the chance again unless we get another quarantine. But I'm not hoping for that. So, I believe you can correct me if I'm wrong. That might have been was that the night after the Jake show?
Yes.
That we ended up.
Was.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So you were in town staying for a weekend, I think, or maybe for the night. Every now and then you'll pop down for a night and be here, there, and gone. Yeah, I think that was after the Jake show at the Appel Center, and we met up with some more friends afterwards at the Appel Center, and the YBMC was having their, I don't know if it's bi-weekly, quarterly, monthly, annual meeting. I couldn't say, because who knows. But they were having their ceremony there in the back room, and we just happened to be next to them, unaware of the circumstance that was taking place, or situation that was taking place, and they started to sing their alma mater, I guess. And I don't know any of the words, and you can chime in if you remember, but I just know that the end of it ends with their initials YBMC and then banging on the table, so it's like YBMC, DMC. So very briefly, you and myself were initiated into the YBMC only by that we just kind of shouted along with
exactly.
at their meeting.
And I just remember Brett, one of my treasured memories is just Brett being like, oh, what does YBMC mean? And I'm just like, I don't know.
and I'm not sure that even I knew what it was then, but obviously living around here and seeing it, there's stickers pop up on lampposts every now and then with like new stickers that they've made that says YBMC, and obviously it has a bearded fellow on it, and I think at one point it was written out somewhere in one of said stickers to York Beard and Mustache Club. So,
well, you know what it is with things like that too, and I know you can attest to this because like it's just like a facet of the human condition. Like once you learn something like that, then you see it everywhere. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Until you are aware of something, you don't realize that it's all around you all the time.
Yes, exactly, dude. Exactly. Yeah. And that is the York Beard and Mustache Club.
Short numbers, baby.
Man. Wyatt and I have also had the pleasure of, we were both groomsmen for Greg. I spoke with Brett about Greg's bachelor party. Yeah, which was a great time. I feel like I always draw the short end of the stick because with all due respect, man, I got a lot of love for everybody. But like, I'm always the guy who has to like travel for it the most.
Yeah.
So like, Brett brought up that like by the end of the night, like I took like, there was a moment where I like set myself aside and I was just like, I need a few minutes, and just like, but man, dude, like when you
I have a fun memory from that, and then I have to go to another one, which is another one of my treasured poly memories.
Oh, please, take it.
So, with the bachelor party, which we did a lot of cool stuff. We went to Round Top and did like a ropes course and kind of it was like a mountainy ropes course, mountain climbing kind of thing, I guess you could call it.
Right.
And so that night, then we ended up, I believe we were at the White Rose for a while, and it was just us, the bachelor party, or the groomsmen rather, and I think it was just us. And eventually we wanted food, and we ended up at a local diner, and you ordered, I'll never forget it, you got a salad with like feta on it, but they came in like spheres. They were like a big chunk of, I think you called them, or we called them feta spheres, which always stuck in my brain. And then you asked them for buffalo sauce, which I thought was a weird thing to put on the salad that you had. And they didn't have it anyway. So I think you got just like some, I don't know, hot tamale, like a taco sauce or something. But then we ended up wherever we ended up and slept. And the next morning we were all kind of hungry. And we were like, well, we couldn't really agree on anything. And I think we were like, well, the diner's there. We can all get something different. So within a 12-hour span, we were at the same restaurant twice, and you ordered the same thing again. You got the salad with the spherospheres and the same hot sauce or whatever. So that always sticks with me.
No doubt.
But then another memory that made me that I cherish, rather, that I always think about was we went to see our friend Someone in a Tree play in New York. And I think it was one of the first times like a lot of us had been together again since college. It was probably within a year or two after we had graduated, maybe, I guess. And my main man Bryce was there, obviously, so it's always a good time to see him. I was very happy. But I believe the place they were playing at midnight, I think it was midnight, maybe, or 11, when their set ended, they cleared the stage area and it became a dance club.
Oh.
So it was like an indie venue, and it was all like, all our like hipster college friends were there having a good time. It was great. It was like, I think it was their CD release party too. So like they had just released that. Everyone's like running around with their download cards. We're having a great time. It's like, get to see this group that we love, and everybody's there, and we're all back together again. It's just like old times.
Yeah.
But man, did it take a quick change and turn into like some dance club.
Right.
So all these new people come in that have no idea what was there before, and there's like strobes, and like there's a couch now up on stage that people are like hanging on and dancing on, whatever. But one of the couches that we had kind of claimed as our own off in a corner somewhere was like where everyone had stacked their coats. There's like a mile-high stack of everyone's coats, and we had all been kind of lingering around that area. And I think I want to say there was like some strobe lights maybe going, or some kind of lighting, and there's like very heavy bass-centered music playing, and we're all drinking, having a good time. It's probably like 1 in the morning, and I feel like at some point I was like, "Where's Polly? I hadn't seen you in a little bit," and I think I glanced over, and you are dead asleep next to this pile of coats in a nightclub, dead asleep, like not even a little bit like, a twilight sleep you had just gone under. Like you were flat out, man.
Oh,
and
man. I do remember that.
I'll always remember that, because then we had to wake you up to then leave, unfortunately. But the fact that you were able to completely pass out, like just fully just sitting there like this, arms out, sleeping. I like to think that you went to sit down there to watch our coats, and then it just became like, it's like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, that the guy that's watching the Grail for 800 years. You were there so long that it was time for a nap.
Indeed, man. Yes. No, I do remember that. I did fall asleep. For anyone who watches this every week, I think Brett gave me a bum rep for Greg's. Brett gave me a bum rep for Greg's bachelor party, because I excused myself for I literally just needed some air to be by myself a little bit. But no, at Steve's play, I did fall asleep. I'd like to imagine it was a little later than 1 o'clock, but I definitely was asleep on that one.
Well, and to your point, I think you were on Long Island at that point.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think it was a Friday, so I think you would still, you worked a full day, and then you had to travel, and so.
Right. And to be honest, man, if we're really talking about it, and nobody has to take this as gospel or anything, but like when I was working the international exchange job, like my hours of sleep were like 2 hours, okay, and then back up for 2.
I remember you would get calls kind of at all like hours of the night sometimes. I remember.
Yeah. So I mean, it's
I think that Brett gave you an unjust rap there for sure.
There you go. Yeah. All right. Just so everybody knows, not that some of this stuff doesn't fall on me, because it does, but it was also like a really weird time in my life where like the hours of sleep and relaxation were kind of wherever you could find them, and that just kind of made for a weird time. But
Well, and
but
for the bachelor party too, you had traveled a long way, and then we literally were doing like a mountains rope course like for the
yes,
whole day.
exactly.
So
And
you
Adam
know,
was doing it in denim. Yeah.
yeah, I forgot about that. I forgot. Didn't you keep pointing that out?
I did. 'Cause I'm not a nice man. I'm not a nice guy. I'm not. I don't.
I think you kept making like dad jokes about it, or like,
Oh,
you know, hey, did you see Adam's denim? Like, and it was just us. That was a good time. That was a good time. I'm glad that anytime we are together, there's always some nugget of a story that, you know, that we hold on to remember each time. Otherwise, they could all just seem like, oh, times that we hung out. But there's always something to bring us back to that place and time.
there's always something very distinct, Wyatt. And honestly, Wyatt, this night is no different. I want to thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else you wanted to cover before we say goodnight?
That was a lot, man. That was a lot. It was good. Yeah, I'm glad you're doing this because, you know, like you said, it's good to look back in 10 years from now and see those things. And, you know, then we'll be 20 years removed from when these events happen. So it's good to rehash them and talk about the way, how we met and how we're still, you know, going about our lives, and we're still making each other a part of our lives. So I appreciate that. And it's good to go back and see how we got here.
Beautiful, man. And rest assured, dude, we'll make some new memories soon. That's for sure.
I believe it.
All right, man. Wyatt, thank you so much. Ears of Corn, I want to thank you for joining us. This has been the Corn Chronicles. The search continues. I have, of course, been Tom Policastro. This has been Wyatt Orman. I hope you had as much fun as we did. Go O's, go Ducks, but the Yankees are all right, too. All right?
Thanks, man.
All right, Wyatt. Have a good one.
Always a pleasure.
Bye-bye.